Hey everybody, it's KD and here for another episode of Girl on Fire. You have to ignore the weirdness that's going on with my camera. I'm sorry. I know it looks kind of hazy, looks like it's haunted or something like that, but that's beside the point. With me today, I have Brenda Murphy, who has been here before, but she has a new book coming out. So we're going to do a hot sauce. Tell us about this hot sauce you sent me right here. It's
Okay,
called, what's it
so
called? Dragon's Breath.
dragon's breath, yeah, and it's bird's eye chili peppers, so it's a green Thai chili, but those little bird's eye ones are really
Oh,
cute.
bird's eye is supposed to be hot.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they are. It's like
Yeah.
if you go out and you get hot Thai food, it has that kind of bird's eye. You know when you get the little you stuff your
Mm-hmm.
spoon over that has a little tiny chilies chopped?
Yeah.
Those are the bird's eye chilies.
They can be kind of hot.
They can, yeah.
They
So
have good flavor though.
and that's the thing. And this one has it's chilies and water, the Thai chilies and water, and vinegar,
Vinegar
garlic,
and ginger.
ginger,
Ooh, basil. Is it Thai
salt.
basil?
Yep. Thai basil,
Ooh,
canola oil, olive oil, and the xanthan gum they put in everything to make it, I guess,
I
thicker.
know.
Right?
Xanthan gum is in everything.
It's in everything.
Oh, look, it's a shaker
It's
bottle.
a
I didn't
shaker.
expect that.
It's a shaker.
Okay, look, everybody, it's a shaker bottle. Usually that's
Right.
an indicator that to me that it's not going to be all that great.
Oh, you don't like
That's my opinion. I think when you have just the
yeah.
open and pour, they
I
just know
take
it's
this.
gonna be
I take
good.
I take those things off sometimes because like
Yeah, I do too.
right.
So
Okay,
I
so
only
I've
got
got
a little
mine.
bit because it's a shaker,
Yeah, I got
and
like
it's
four or
hard to
five
get it
drops.
out, everybody, but it's enough to taste.
Yeah, I got four, and I got mine's got like little pieces of chili in it, and the
Really?
basil. I can see
Yeah,
it.
you can see the herbs and stuff in there.
Yeah, did you shake it up
Okay.
good? All right, here we
Yep,
go.
I
All
did. Okay.
right, here we go.
That is good.
Isn't that good? Ooh,
It's got a nice kick too.
vinegary and a little bit of the ginger. The heat from the ginger, you get that backburn from the ginger and the
It
pepper.
tastes it tastes like it has some kind of citrus in it.
That's the probably the basil, the Thai basil.
Yeah, I
Although,
guess that could be it.
or the yeah, because it doesn't have any lime in it.
But
But it's the
it has like that. Yeah,
it does. So maybe it's the basil. I don't know, but it's good.
it is. I like
Um,
this. You
see,
always pick the best sauces.
because
I haven't
I
left out.
cook.
Huh?
Because I
What'd you
cook.
say?
I said because I cook. I was thinking
Yeah.
if you cook and you kind of, I mean, once I read what's on the sauce and I look at it, I'm like, I like heat,
Mm-hmm.
but I want it
But
to taste.
flavor.
I want some flavor, and I'm a
Gotta have
sucker
flavor.
for vinegar
Yes.
sauces. I love vinegar sauces. I grew up with, even though I grew up in Virginia, most of our
Mm-hmm.
barbecue flavor was like that North Carolina East Coast vinegary kind of barbecue,
Mm-hmm.
not the sweet barbecue. And so I really like vinegar sauces.
Me
And
too. I like them better than tomato. I've had some pretty good tomato-based sauces. Then I had some really gnarly ones too, where you're like, oh,
they can
Jesus
get, I think
Christ.
they can get tinny, like they have that back metallic
Yes.
taste in like
Yes.
tomato
And it
sauces,
just messes up everything.
and you can't, yeah.
Everything. So everybody, this is a really good sauce. It's hot. It's not a beginner sauce. I'm gonna tell you
No, it's
that
not a
because
beginner sauce,
it's above the heat for a beginner, but it's
but it's,
great flavor. In
yeah,
fact, I would give it maybe a 7.5 for the heat. It
yeah,
stings, but it goes away quickly.
yeah,
Uh, and I would give it a 9 for flavor.
yeah. This is
It's
good.
really good.
I'm
Yeah, it's
excited.
really good.
I'm
And
excited about it.
it's Dragon's Breath. Did you get
Dragon's
this off
breath.
of Amazon?
I did. I found it green chili Thai sauce because I wanted to send you something that had some flavor to it. So I started looking for Thai sauces. And they had some really interesting mixed sauces, but they didn't have good reviews. But this one, as just a plate straight up green Thai chili, had really
Oh,
good reviews. And it's good. Why? Is because it tastes good. So
yeah, that is very good. I'm actually gonna use it. It's often that I'll get hot sauces and the gnarly ones I don't use.
Yeah.
And then there's some that are that I may put in the refrigerator and every once in a while, and then
Right.
there's some you use a lot,
Right. Right.
so
You just, I know I told you I got that mango one for my wife and she like wiped out 2 bottles, I think in
oh my
2 weeks.
God, it's
Like,
so
are
good.
you drinking? Are you drinking it? What are
It's
you
so
doing?
good. It goes on anything.
It was really good, and it wasn't too hot for her, but we've
Uh-uh.
been getting these really beautiful peppers in our farm share,
Uh-huh.
and we've been stuffing them, doing stuffed peppers.
Oh.
The other day, we're like pulled all the peppers out, and we have like those long, skinny red peppers.
Uh-huh.
And we had some Hungarians, there were a couple of poblanos, and there were these 2 cute little orange peppers, and I wasn't thinking. And she goes, what are these? I said, I don't know. Donna threw them in. I said, they're probably fine for stuffing. She goes, well, I'm going to try them first. They were like habaneros, which I didn't even
Oh.
like. It totally just like,
Did she bite one? She ate one?
she tasted a little tiny piece of it. I give her a lot of credit. She tasted it. She goes, honey, I think these are habaneros. And I picked it up and took a piece. Oh, yeah, that is a habanero. Don't stuff those. I said, put those aside.
Oh.
But she did it. She was good. She didn't
Oh.
cry or anything. And my son is like all about wanting to try hot sauces. So I'm starting him out with like beginner sauce, like,
Mm-hmm.
Frank's Red Hot and
Uh-huh.
a little
Which
bit
has
of,
good flavor by itself too.
right, a little bit
Yeah.
of Frank's Red Hot and a little bit of the cayenne, little
Mm-hmm.
drops kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
so
tell
far,
you, Louisiana has some good, a nice array of sauces too. They have a jalapeno, a
okay,
chipotle, a habanero
I'll have to try it.
sauce,
Yeah.
in just the Louisiana bottle.
Okay.
They're
Yeah.
really good. They're
As a
really
kid,
good.
I went to that the factory there, the Tabasco factory on Avery
Uh,
Island when I was like 14. That was pretty exciting. I think
mm,
somewhere for the longest time I had a little teeny tiny bottle of hot sauce
oh
that
my
just sat
God.
on my shelf.
Oh my God. Yes,
But
Tabasco goes on everything.
right, Tabasco and everything, and I put it in everything. But God, that was such a fun trip. And I remember a lot of the kids wouldn't even try it. Like when you get to the end, they would let
Uh-huh.
you taste it, and I was like, I had grown up with it because my grandmother
Mm,
smoked and seasoned everything like a
yes.
smoker does. So like her spaghetti sauce was like just set you on fire. And you weren't
Ooh,
used to it, right? It was like a really spicy sauce.
I like
And
spicy spaghetti
it was really
sauce.
good. She like dump a whole bunch of red peppers in it and everything else.
Oh,
And I remember I had a friend that came over and his mom was like from Wisconsin. And so he about died eating that spaghetti. He was dying. And of course, because he was a boy back in the 70s, he didn't want to look like he was
sweating, face
sweating.
was
He had like
red.
2 glasses of milk.
Oh my
And my grandma
God,
had
poor
kind of,
thing.
some days she put a little bit more heat in it. And my dad sat back and and my dad was a smoker and he goes, Mom, he goes, you really, I think you outdid yourself tonight. We all ate it as we're
But
all like
yeah, I
digging
used to
in because we grew up
I
with.
like my mom didn't cook it that way. But like when I had my own apartment and everything and I made spaghetti or anything like that, and in our house we would, do the pasta, we would like brown some ground beef and throw in the sauce and throw everything in the same pot. Not everybody does that.
Not everybody does that. No.
And so that's how I had gotten used to cooking it. So I did that, but I would do some red pepper, some hot sauce, and then you put the cheese on top. Oh,
Right.
it's just that perfect spiciness that goes with the tomato. I mean, and everything. But
Yeah. And fresh
yeah,
spices.
but
Yeah.
it's something about the vinegary hot sauce and a tomato, sauce that just kind of really goes together.
That whole that combination of flavors, it just hits all
Hmm.
the notes when
Hmm.
you get a good hot sauce.
Exactly,
So
exactly.
this one's going on the use frequently shelf.
Yes, I know, right? I'm definitely going
Yeah,
to put this in the
totally.
refrigerator and use it. So you have a new book coming out.
I do. Lockset, and that will
Hmm.
come out next Monday.
Do you have
I don't have a cover. I don't have a
oh my
book.
God, the cover is so
I
beautiful. I
don't.
can't believe
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. I didn't print one out. Yeah, that's me.
Oh,
But it is gorgeous,
it
and
is a gorgeous cover. Who does your covers?
Natasha Snow is the most amazing
Wow.
artist, and she does all the covers for Nine Star Press. And she has just done fabulous covers for me from the beginning. But I really like how she's doing this series,
Mm-hmm.
and with the colors. And if she does it like she did my last series, when you line them up,
Uh-huh.
it'll be a nice pattern if you line the spines up.
I
So I'm
see, like, from the first book and the second book, I see some similarity in the color palette and all that stuff. You can see how it goes together.
yeah,
So, but it's a fairly sophisticated cover, though. I mean, to not have any people or anything on it, but it
right.
still says a lot, and
It
you don't
she
see that, that often, especially
she
in Lesfic.
she's amazing, and you're right. I mean, a lot of times you see just people, and a lot of my erotica has people on the covers because I think people like that. I think that's a marketing thing. We
Mm-hmm.
want to see the people that are going to be inside. Um, and these are these books are dual point of view, so that's a new
Mm-hmm.
thing for me, and that's a whole different way to write the dual point of.
Really?
Yeah, for me it is because always wrote, third part, I wrote from one point of view, and usually deep third person, point of view.
Huh,
And
that's
now
interesting.
for me it's like I have to think about, okay, and then move to the next person's, like, what's going on. And
and
that's
and
different.
create their voice to make it stand out.
So they stand out, and it's
Yeah.
almost like and I usually try and stick, like, if I'm writing that day in that character's voice,
Mm-hmm.
I try and stick just in that character's voice,
Mm-hmm.
unless it's one of those intense scenes where you want both sides of it. You're like, okay, so
Mm-hmm.
this happened, so how is she going to react to this?
Mm-hmm.
And then the back and forth kind of thing. And so that's been, yeah, that was a different thing. I mean, learning to balance, I use color coding on the ends of my cards and Scriveners, so I can see that I want to give both people voices.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want it to just be one person's story where the other
Where it
person's like, "Ah,"
sounds like it's just one person talk.
right, and
Yeah.
the other person's not as deeply explored. And I
Mm-hmm.
wanted both people to be represented, and that's such a balancing act, right? Trying to
It
get that.
is. It very much is. I've never written anything except from two people, the dual point of view. I've not written anything in third person. I've
Yeah,
never written
yeah.
anything in I'm so used to when I create my main characters, it's like I find that voice for that one character, then I move on and find a voice for the other character. And usually how I write, it's like the first chapter is one character, second chapter is that other character.
Mhm.
And eventually, when they mesh, that's when the chapter is a combination of both points of views. Like,
I
I have a nice song section of one character, and then your little dee 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 dee,
right.
and then a nice section of the other character. But it's just I don't know how I started that way. It seems to work for me though. It
That's
seems to work,
good. Yeah, but
and I have never written, not that I can recall, anything in third person before.
have you ever done first person? I've not
I
done that either.
have. I hate it
Yeah.
because I
You
feel
hate
like
reading it or writing it?
I don't like reading it either.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
I don't like reading it. I don't like writing. I feel like writing it, authors have a tendency to go overboard with
Interesting.
the
Yeah.
flowery language and
Huh.
I mean and all that stuff. It's just like, and I hate writing it because I don't know why I hate writing
I don't write it because it feels like too personal.
it. It
Like it
feels
feels
like to
like
me
it,
that
it
I'm
feels
not
like I'm
getting
there.
a view of the other person like I want. Maybe
Mm.
that's part of it.
Yeah,
So
you can't 360 yourself.
yeah,
You put
exactly. So
yourself in to write that character. You can't
yeah.
360 yourself. So I think that's what makes the characters. Yeah, if you're doing third person, it's like being able to kind of 360 yourself,
Mm-hmm.
because you're still taking in the other people, and you
Mm-hmm.
step back and
So
forth.
tell us about this book.
So the new book,
Mm-hmm.
um, my main characters are a very high powered attorney from
Ooh.
Chicago that grew up in the small town of Sykesville.
Mm-hmm.
And she has been very career focused, very driven, goal of making partner, big falling out with her dad because she was perfect in every way except that she was lesbian and he wasn't happy about that.
Oh.
And so they have a big falling out, and she's living her life, and then out of the blue he's like, you got to come home and talk to me. And she's like, you what? You put me out of your life. I walk out the door because you're trying to convert me and pray over me and all this stuff, and now you want me back in your life. And then she puts him off because she's got a big case going on, and she doesn't actually get to have that conversation. And so until something very untoward happens to him.
Oh no.
She has to go back to the small town.
So she ends up having to go back anyway.
Yeah,
Okay.
she has to go back anyway. So in that, and my other main character lives in the small town, ends up being working in the lock shop with her dad because her brother wanted to be a nurse and her sister wanted to be a cop, and she didn't really know, it was just the thing. She didn't really get an opportunity to think about what she wanted to do, but she likes to work and she likes him and she's having a good time, knows everybody in the town. She's that person that knows everybody.
Well, yeah, it's a small,
right?
Yeah.
Right. So if you go anywhere, she knows who you are. And so,
oh my goodness.
Right. And so the two, in some ways, kind of opposites attract because she's much more laid back about a lot of things, and she loves dogs and volunteers at the animal shelter, and they meet, and of course, because it's a romance, they work through their differences and fall in love. So that's what Lockset's about, and it's unique in that it's the first book that I've written, and that all of my other books are interracial, where usually one of the partners is white. And in this book, Morgan is Black and Yoon is Korean. So that's a whole different way of writing. And that was interesting, exploring that and sending that out to folks, because I have sensitivity readers that I send stuff out to. And
well, thank you for that. I think, okay, let me stop you right there.
Okay.
Everybody, listen to what she's saying. This is a big deal right here. She is going ahead. She wasn't fearful of trying to tackle, characters and cultures that are different from her. She wasn't afraid to tackle it, but in order to make sure it was where she wanted to be, you got the sensitivity readers. I wish authors would do that more often. I really do. I think that's integral in, going for them to go outside their comfort zone and really develop, BIPOC characters, and not just have them in like that book I was listening to, that plug and play type thing. Because it was just like, don't be afraid to say, this character's Black at the beginning. The word Black is not a 4-letter word.
Right.
It's not.
It's not. And I think that the advantage that I have is that I have a lot of very dear friends that are willing to sensitivity read for me. And one of my good friends, I trade her academic reading. It's like medical. She's a medical anthropologist. And so I trade her nonfiction reading of her articles and stuff in exchange for reading my fiction, which, is really a nice, it doesn't feel like I'm asking someone to do more. If I can offer something in exchange. And I've had other friends that, and I have straight friends that write, if they're going to write lesbian characters or bi women or women loving women characters, will often contact me and say, hey, can you give this a read through for me? And, it's having that, it is, and it's having that network of people that encourage you and also, aren't afraid to say, you might want to think how you're doing this, or, maybe change your wording here, or, acknowledge that it's not like that for everybody. And of course, the caveat with sensitivity readers, because sometimes people will say, well, I had a sensitivity reader and they said it was fine. I'm like, well, they're not the arbiter of everything that is
Yes,
that thing that their
that's
sensitivity is
true.
for.
That is true.
Um,
I mean,
yeah.
like you say, it's very individual. It's a very individual type thing, individualistic
Yeah,
type thing,
it
So I
is.
mean,
It is. And I always, when I do sensitivity reads for people, and I'll say, in my experience, and I always like put that in there. It's like, in my
hmm
experience, this has been how this might go down, or you
hmm
might want to focus a little bit more on this part of what you're talking about. Um, and the plug and play characters, it reminds me of like when you read some very poorly written LGBTQI, pick any of the
and
spectrum.
it wasn't a great story. I mean, it was interesting, but it was very one dimensional, unfortunately.
That's
Um,
that's sad because you miss so much richness being able to
yeah.
put in family relationships, being able to put in expectations of childhood.
Mm.
I had a friend one time, and we were just talking about family dynamics, and we were talking about parents, and she goes, "Yeah," she goes, "I'm my parents' retirement fund."
Huh.
And I thought that was fascinating. And she goes, "Yeah," she goes, "They spent all their money putting me through school, with the
Wow.
idea that I would make enough money that
To
when
take
they come."
care of them. Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
because that's within their culture expected.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
an
Yes.
expectation,
Mm-hmm.
and one that people may or may not understand outside that. I have friends that were that that are in marriages that were arranged for them by their parents,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people look at that and they may criticize that. But
But it's part of their culture.
one of my friends looked at me and she goes, "Who would choose better than my parents?"
Mm.
And I said, "So could you have said no?" And she goes, "Oh, I could have said no." She goes, "But I liked him and he seemed nice, and who would choose better for me than my parents?" And
That's a good way to look at it.
they
That's a good
had
way to
been
look at
very
it.
happily married for, I think when I talked to her about this, because she was an older woman, because we were, nurses talk about everything, because I'm a labor and delivery nurse by training, and
Mm-hmm.
we really have to ask hard questions sometimes, and we really get to know a lot of different people in a lot of different situations, because having to be there and navigate that whole intense experience of having a baby,
Mm-hmm.
that building of a family, or however it's going to go down. um, Always interesting to talk to people, and sometimes and my coworkers, and I worked for a long time in a hospital where there were a lot of different people from a lot of different places. So
Mm-hmm.
late at night, 2 a.m, we're waiting for people to have their babies. Sometimes those conversations were really
Well, what
intense,
else
but
do you have to do? I mean, besides
right, but
talk?
you learn about things like
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
so being able to explore those that multicultural richness
Yeah. That's important. And
is
you talk
profound.
about interracial romance. This is still interracial romance,
It is.
and we were talking earlier off camera about how it doesn't sell too well, you know,
Sometimes not.
because
Yeah,
sometimes not,
sometimes.
because people have a problem not wanting to read about others who don't look like them,
Yeah, they.
even though it's a similar story, that they may have read before. I mean, because there's nothing new in Lesfic. I mean, every trope has been
Romance,
utilized,
romance, how it's going
Ye-
to end. You
yes,
know how
yes.
romance is
And
going to
it's
end.
just
Just,
like when an
yeah,
author sits down and writes a book, they pick whatever trope they're going to do and put their own
right?
spin on it. So it's,
Exactly.
it is what it is. So
Right.
it's just interesting to me that that can still be an issue, that we're so stuck into let's fit just being white,
Well, and skinny,
still,
white and skinny,
yes, yes, thank you,
athletic,
yes,
and I got
perfect,
a really,
blonde,
right,
yeah,
I got a really good, I had a nice message from a reader that said, "Thank you for giving your character thick thighs." She goes, "I never see that in Lesfic." She goes,
uh-huh,
"Thank," and I'm thinking, I'm not the only one. There are other people, and I encouraged her. I have some people that I know that write,
mm-hmm.
not everybody's a size 2. Not everybody's
Yeah,
like
exactly,
athletic, and being able to move away from some of those things and move away from expectations. I like to
Mm-hmm.
turn things, I had a friend one time that told me I looked at life sideways because,
Okay.
well, and I kind of do. I mean, like I like to rotate things. I'm like, okay, so how would that look if we changed this
Mm-hmm.
pattern or changed how that is normally presented? Um, and being aware of those subtle things that work their way in. I had a really great time with double six, because at one point I actually got to have one of my black characters, one of the other characters, is asking her what she should do with about her love life. She looks at her and says, I'm not your magic Negro. And it was really fun to put that in there, because oftentimes
Oh.
that's one of those subtle things and she says, what? She goes, I don't know what the hell you should do.
You know, I've heard that line.
Right,
I've
right,
in quite a bit of. I've heard it on TV.
right,
I
right.
heard
It's
it.
that
I've read it
idea
in a
that,
book.
oh
I've
my God,
been
there's a
that I've
really,
read.
if you go to YouTube, there is a very funny skit where the two magic Negroes are squaring off.
Uh huh.
I think it was Saturday Night Live, but it was such a great send up of that trope. Like, the wise is going to, fix everything.
Yes.
You're
Yes.
not central. And this is what always gets you, is like, they don't have them in the story for any other reason. They're like a prop. And that
Yes.
part really bothers me. And I'm like, no, this isn't right. So that was really fun to put that in the
Yes.
last
Yes.
book. And I know people really
So
picked up on that.
yeah, and I think there was this article that I had the last Girl on Fire. I had DJ Small, who
Mm-hmm.
is a trans author, trans male. He identifies as male, and he writes Lesfic, and had a great time with him and everything. It was like talking to an old friend. But he put an article after the taping. He put an article up on Twitter about how diversity is a big thing, and a lot of writers, think they're helping by including a diverse character,
Mm-hmm.
but the diverse character is plug and play. Where if you took that Asian, that Korean, that Black person and took them out, you could easily fit a white person in there.
Right.
That's an issue, and that's just hurting instead of helping. And I was
Well,
like,
and you can tell they wrote the entire book one way, and then
yeah.
last minute decided to, like, throw something in. It's like, your character is your character, and every single thing that has happened to them, like, if you know their backstory, and I always have a little backstory for my
Mm-hmm.
characters. I mean, I usually write a page or so about what their life was like and how they grew up. And
Mm-hmm.
uh, I go through, there's a couple of psychological questions and profiles that I always ask myself, like, what's your biggest fear? What's the worst thing that ever happened to them?
Mm-hmm.
What makes them happy? What do they like? I mean, I need to know those things to make them round
Mm-hmm.
people,
Mm-hmm.
and to have them be, and part of that
Individual.
individual, but how you grew up,
Yes.
your culture, you know, did your whole family live in the same house? And was that how it was supposed to be? I mean, I always think about, like, the biggest thing that the multi-generational families,
Mm-hmm.
and how that's very, that's unique in different
Yes.
cultures. Who
Yes, it
lives with you?
is.
Is it your mom's dad or your
Mm-hmm.
dad's mom? Who is living
Mm-hmm.
with you?
And in
Is
minority races, that happens quite a bit.
right.
Happens
And
quite
is
a
it
bit.
is it is it expected? Is it
Mm-hmm.
what you do? Or did your family reject that scenario because
Mm-hmm.
it didn't fit with their new life here? And does that cause friction? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there's lots of things that can, you know, take drawing from my experience with families,
Mm-hmm.
that affect everything. I mean,
Yeah.
I've gotten to be there where the one thing that was going to draw these two very different sides of the family that were struggling to put their lives together was this new life.
Mm.
Because I'll tell you, being a grandparent kind of overrides a lot of crap.
I bet it does. I bet it does. I can
It's a
imagine.
fascinating, it would always be really fascinating to me to see, and I had a delivery one night where neither the couple had met, or where they met, I don't even know where they're met now. Neither of their families spoke a common language. My couple spoke about 4 or 5 languages between them, but neither of their families spoke a common language.
Mm.
And so when the baby was born, it got really loud in the delivery room because people would just talk louder, hoping that someone would understand what they
Oh
were
my
saying.
gosh.
It's
Oh
still
my
one of the
gosh. I bet
best,
you that was
one
an
of my
experience.
favorite memories, because I thought, oh my God, this is really sweet, because they were all so excited
Mm-hmm.
and trying to communicate,
Any
but
way they knew how.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
loud. And they told me, they said, it's going to get loud in here after the baby. And I said, really? They said, you should hear the tapes from our wedding.
Oh my God. Oh God.
Yeah. So,
Oh.
yeah, putting those things in, using sensitivity readers,
Mm-hmm.
not being afraid to put yourself out there and go.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Don't be afraid. I mean,
And take criticism. Like if your sensitivity reader writes you back and says, don't do this,
this is
really,
wrong. This is
this,
offensive.
this is not,
Listen.
this is
Yeah.
offensive. And not just, I mean, my next, I have a book where I'm working, where the lead character is differently abled,
Mm-hmm.
and I need to, I have an old friend that I'm going to try and contact and see if she's
Mm-hmm.
still around, but I'm going to find some people to read that, because again, it's different than what I know, and I want to get it right. And
And
because I
that's
think
a very underrepresented population in Lesfic.
it is. I can only think of a few books
Mm-hmm.
that have done it, and I
Mm-hmm. We
think
talk
that
about perfect bodies and perfect this and
right,
perfect that,
right,
so.
right, exactly. But I think, and somebody said, when's that coming out? They want this character's book, and I'm like, I need to, I've got to do some deep research for
Mm-hmm.
that. It would make
I applaud anybody who goes toward those more marginalized uh, individuals. Like Jax Meyer writes about
yes,
autism. You
yes,
don't see
yes.
that. I mean, that's,
And my daughter is on the spectrum, and
yeah, I'm gonna be saying that. Yeah.
it really makes me happy to see that. It's like when we watched She-Ra, Princess of Power,
Mm-hmm.
and my daughter was really, really taken
Mm-hmm.
with the character there, and Entrapta, and she really, really was excited to see herself. I mean, my kids were excited about that anyway, because there was families like ours, and we were super excited about that. Um, but my daughter was really, she has someone to, and for her to be like a really big part of the end
Mm-hmm.
story. I'm not trying not to spoil anything here, but for her to be,
Oh, everybody's seen.
you've seen it, right?
Everybody's seen that
Right.
show.
So for
Please
her,
give me a
right,
break.
right. But for her to, well, I don't know. If you have kids, sometimes you're really behind.
Oh.
When my kids were little, I was like 5 or 6 years behind movies, but she really liked that, and I think we all want to see ourselves
Mm-hmm. We do.
represented, and we want to see that we all, I mean, part of the tagline for my website is because we all deserve happy endings.
Yes.
Because I think that, in the same way that, kill your gaze is a big thing in mainstream
Oh.
media and denying us that happy ending.
Mm-hmm.
I think that in a lot of books, the same thing goes. You don't see multicultural people getting their happy ending.
Yeah, or they're just there to hold up the
Right,
white person
right. Yeah,
somehow,
let me
or
support
feed
you.
into the story, or educate, or something
Oh
like
my
that.
God, yeah, right.
Yeah.
All of that,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that that's
Uh, That's detrimental. I mean, it very
It's
much so.
detrimental, and it's disconcerting, and it's just like, oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Haven't we moved? Haven't we gotten? And no, we haven't gotten beyond that. And I think people need to do the work and not be afraid
Yeah.
to include people as real, rounded characters
Yes,
in your
yes,
stories.
yes. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Well,
So is this erotic romance?
it's high heat level, but it's not. I wouldn't call it erotic romance.
Okay.
They do have a lot of sex because
Mm,
you do when you first meet somebody, right? Or at least you do in
yeah.
the romance books. and and that's that's their connection,
Hmm.
and then it builds off that. But I would not. It's not erotic romance. It's not erotica, but it has a high heat level, and this is probably a little
Okay.
higher on the heat
So
scale
how is
than the first one.
your last book wasn't erotica either? So
No,
how are
no.
you like how is this different, a departure for you in a way?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, how would I call it? Yeah, it's kind of moving away from a very, erotica. I always, for me, when I write erotica, sex is centered in the story.
Hmm.
That is how you get from point A to point B. Erotica, sex is your vehicle that is going
Hmm.
to carry this couple to where they're going,
Hmm.
and part of their emotional work. Whereas, an erotic romance, and that's what I wrote, was erotic romance, not necessarily straight up erotica, because that
Yes,
doesn't
true.
have
True.
happening.
That's a whole different
But,
category of
right, but
things. Yeah.
but erotic romance, that's their connection, and that's what gets them to where they're going.
Hmm.
Versus, I think in a more typical romance, the romance is centered, their
Yes.
relationship is centered, the sex is awesome,
Hmm.
and sex scenes. If you're going to write a sex scene, for God's sakes, don't just stick it in there to be a placeholder.
Oh my God,
It
yes.
has to move the story, and if it doesn't
Hmm.
move the story, you need to cut the scene, or you need to fix the scene so it moves the story, because I think sometimes people stick them in and they're not like, this feels like it should be here, but I don't know why, and you need to go back
Hmm.
and figure out the why of your sex scene. Because as a good friend said, even a bad sex scene conveys something to the story. Not all sex is wonderful.
Hmm.
You have to think about how that, if it's a bad experience, how that drives the story, or if it's, if somebody walks out, you
You
had a good
know,
time, and then you say, I gotta
I've
go.
I've never read a book where the sex was horrible and or something happened and they ended up laughing, or I've never read a book like that. Would be an interesting.
I don't think I've written one where they've ended up laughing, but I've written one where, like, something doesn't click at the end,
Mm-hmm.
or it leaves them in a worse place than where they were.
Mm.
I've written that, like, oh, great, we've done it, and now I have to. I mean, I always say erotic romance is, we did it, and now we have to figure out what the hell to do about it.
Yeah, that's kind of where
That's erotic
I
romance. It's like,
am.
oh my god, this was awesome. Oh,
Hmm.
it was just supposed to be sex and not have feelings, and we're in trouble, and I
Yeah.
have to figure this out. Right? That's
Hmm.
erotic romance.
Hmm.
Regular romance
Exactly.
is, I think I like this person. Oh, we
Let's see
might
where it goes. Should I
see
tell
where
her
it
how I
goes. It's
feel?
that little slower pace,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I mean, because
Okay.
it's me and I like to write sex, I always have some sex in my books, because I don't think I could. I mean, I probably could tell a story without sex, but it wouldn't be as much fun, you know? And I think you should have fun writing, or,
Yes, exactly, exactly.
writing's a treat for me. I mean, it's not always, it doesn't always come easy, but I don't ever think of it as like horrible to do. I mean,
Hmm.
some people have a different relationship with it, but
Yes,
I like to,
yes.
it's fun for me. I
I
always,
enjoyed it as well. And I always said if it got to the point where I was struggling and things just didn't seem right, or it just felt like work and I was stressed. I mean, well,
yeah,
you are stressed sometime in the process, but
right,
stressed,
right.
that,
Like, if
okay,
it's
I don't
not
need,
fun,
something's wrong here. I mean,
right.
so.
If you hate it, I mean, I
Mhm.
always say the most amazing thing in my life is that for the 33 years I worked as a nurse, I pretty much always liked to go into my job. I
Mhm.
mean, there were some days, like everybody has, where you're like, oh, I don't want to go to work today. But I would say probably 90% of the days that I went to work for my job, I liked going.
Mm-hmm.
I liked what I did, and that's a gift, and that's amazing. A lot of people don't have
Mm-hmm.
that. And I always say
Mm-hmm.
the writing is the same way. Every day I get to
Mm-hmm.
do it is a gift. It's just awesome. I mean, it's a
Yes,
second.
I mean you're creating like a world. I mean,
Nobody dies unless I want them to, and that
yes,
for me is
yes,
magical. You know, that
yes,
that is my, when the rest of the world is on fire, I can
like it
sit
is now.
down, like it
Mm-hmm.
is now. I
Mm-hmm.
can sit down at my little computer and disappear into a world of my own design. And
Yes.
that for me is, I get, when I can't do it, or like when life interrupts, because sometimes it does, and I
Mm-hmm.
can't get to it, I get really agitated. I feel like,
Mm.
which, I mean,
I
some
know that
people don't.
feeling. Yeah,
Right,
'cause
right. You're like,
I have, like I said, I haven't written anything in like a little over a week, and it's
right,
been bugging me. It's just
because
been
you've been
like,
bottled up.
oh,
You're like, I
yeah,
have
I'm
to get
just,
there. I have to get there. There's stuff in my
yeah,
head. It has to come out kind of stuff.
yeah,
And
exactly. So I was like, okay, tomorrow night I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna sit there and get some stuff out. Or, maybe in between, maybe even in the morning. I don't know. We'll have to see. But I
I'm
need
gonna be
to.
getting up super early
Yeah,
to
I want to
record
finish
this.
this chapter,
Right.
and
Definitely.
it just kind of
Yeah.
explore, where they're going next and how things are
No,
going
I've
to
been
play
enjoying
out.
the snippets.
Well, yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, oh yeah, I haven't put a snippet up lately,
Yeah,
as a
not
matter of
lately, but
fact.
I like the ones I read. Those were really great. I was like,
Yeah,
okay,
so
bring it on.
it's moving along, and I'm a fly by your seat of the pants type of writer.
Yeah,
And it comes as it comes, and I have a middle now,
that's good.
so that's good. I mean,
You get a middle. Well, but you always know your end. You always know they're going to end at
yes, I
the
do
end.
know the end as well. I
Oh,
mean,
it's like
once
writing. Yeah.
once I figured out like the conflict,
Mm,
the overall conflict, because the way it's set up is gonna seem like one thing is the conflict, but it's gonna be resolved fairly early, because these are adult women.
right.
And I don't like the fact of a man pitting them against each other and
Yeah.
them falling into that trap.
Right.
So, I want them, I see these as and they're intelligent enough to see that.
Right.
And yes, they're upset about the position they've been put in, but they needed some time to like reflect and figure out, okay, this is what this guy has done, and they're both pissed about it. End up being pissed about it, and they're let me stop because I'm telling too much, but anyway, so I figured out how I'm gonna do with that, and it's just like it just, and I was like, okay, that's how it's gonna end. I already know. So yeah,
That's
yeah.
very cool. Very
So
cool.
so you have congratulations on a new book,
Thank you.
and you have a great story to tell about Beverly
The
Jenkins.
amazing Beverly Jenkins.
Yes.
So I met Beverly Jenkins out at the Surrey International Writers Conference, and I can't even remember the year now. Um, but if you ever get a chance to hear her speak or go
Mm-hmm.
to an Ask Me Anything, if you follow her Facebook page, she has them posted a lot of times. She gives back all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but she also has amazing advice. Last time she didn't ask me anything, it was for writers, and people wrote, and I wrote down 10 things, or like Beverly Jenkins 10 rules of writing, or her
Mm-hmm.
suggestions or whatever. And I have those posted next to my desk. But I met her before I was published. I had not. I came back from the Surrey conference where I met her, and I also met Sarah Wendell. Um, and I had listen to me, a blue pencil with Sarah Wendell, and about a story. And you could sit
Uh-huh.
down with somebody and give them, like a couple pages of your story, like 3 pages of your story,
Mm-hmm.
and they would critique it with you there.
Mm-hmm.
and
Wow.
she, it was very Sarah Wendell is the reason that I think I have Sarah Wendell, Megan Hart, Beverly Jenkins are the reason I have anything published today, I swear, because I
Wow.
listened to what they all had to say. And so,
Well, most
right,
writers don't have such a trio of,
right. So Sarah,
uh,
it was like magic. So Sarah Wendell with that blue pencil, and she took her pen and she drew on my paper and she said, "This is a good start." And
uh-huh,
it was one of my short stories that eventually got published.
mm-hmm.
And she said, "But you have to build a house around your couple that no one else but them will fit in
Mm.
when you're writing romance." So that,
That's interesting.
right? But think about it. Nobody else but them belongs in that house. And you have to build it so that people believe
Yes,
you
yes, I
belong.
see what, yes, okay.
So, so right. So that was my blue pencil with Sarah Wendell. Beverly Jenkins did a talk. Megan Hart did a talk. You know, I mean, like keynotes and speaking and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
But we rode the morning that we were supposed to leave. I was going to ride back with Megan Hart because we were leaving really early from Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
And something happened with our ride, and we were trying to get a taxi, and Beverly saw us in the lobby. She goes, "You guys ride with me. Let me check my rides, make sure we got room." So this woman, she goes, "Oh yeah, I'll take all of you." She's this wonderful volunteer who drove this really, really souped up car.
Uh-huh.
I still don't know how all three of us fit in there. And so we get out on the interstate, and the next thing I know, Beverly says, "Well, how fast will it go?" And we were like ripping down the interstate because
Oh
she
my gosh.
likes the cars, right? So that was really awesome. But what was really amazing is that I stayed in touch with her. So much encouragement from her. And a couple of years later, we were at Spring Fling, Chicago North RWA, Spring Fling.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at a book signing, and Megan was there with me. We had our book was getting ready to come out, whatever, because we did the book together. And I went over to say hey and get my hug because she gives really awesome hugs. And she goes, "Where's your book?" And I said, "Well, it's back at the table." She goes, "Well, bring it to me and sign it." And I was like, till the day I died, knowing that Beverly Jenkins asked for my book and asked me to sign it for her, that just doesn't get any better than
I
that.
know, right?
So
Wow.
amazing. Right. But such an incredible woman, and she has given so much back to the community and
She
encouraged
has. In
writers.
fact, one of my previous guests, Ann Shade,
Yes.
has a similar story. I mean, if you went back and watched her her episode, she she talks about like how big of an influence she was, and that she felt like she was a mentor and that she wouldn't be writing if it hadn't been for her. And I was just like, oh my god,
Oh yeah.
and some of that conversation was off screen too, so but still, I was just like, wow. Yeah.
She's an amazing woman, and I'm so excited because one of her book series got picked up to be made for television.
Really?
Yes, or by Al Roker. I think it's Al Roker Productions. I might be misspeaking here. Got picked up, and it's going to be a television series, and I'm really super excited for that because
Oh, that's great.
it's really cool.
That's
But
great.
she's if, like I said, if you ever get a chance to go to an Ask Me Anything or a
Hmm.
keynote, or
I'm gonna follow her on Twitter. I don't think I'm pretty
follow
sure
her
I
on
don't.
Twitter. She has a very active Facebook page that she's on, and that's where you'll see the notices for, like, a lot of times libraries will come and she'll do talks about her books at libraries.
Hmm.
And like I said, she'll do the Ask Me Anything a couple of times a year, and a lot of times she'll gear those towards writers. Always amazing and fantastic advice, and
Cool.
just an
Excellent.
encouragement. I mean, she's just really, really encouraging. So
Okay.
just like one of those people that I look up to, and just
I can understand, definitely understand why.
right,
Well,
and
thank you
all of
for
that.
joining me again.
You're
Uh,
welcome. Thank you for having me again. I really like hot sauce, and I'm so happy that there's someone out there that likes hot sauces as much as I do.
I know, right? In fact,
Yeah.
everybody, my cupboard is yeah, I'm running out.
We
of
got to send some hot
sauces.
sauces.
As a
Okay.
matter of fact, I was looking up there the other day, and I was like, oh man, I don't.
I'll have to send you some more of that. Was that one I sent you that you used up in like a week? The Funky Kingston cheese? Is
Yes. Oh
that
my
that
God, that
one?
was so good.
All right. Yeah, that's Josh. I'm gonna have to tell Josh that he has to watch these because he'll appreciate that.
Yes, they oh that
With
hot
that.
that sauce is so good. It's so flavorful, and it
Yes.
just has just enough little kick
Well,
to
and they're
just.
vegan. They're vegan, so a lot of their sauces are, they build on that flavor, like to try to build
Mm-hmm.
that flavor in.
Mm-hmm.
And I
It's
love.
really good.
He has one that's called Everyday Spice that I would send you, but it's got sugar in it, and I don't think that's a good thing.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, but he's got a couple other ones that I'll have to put together a Christmas package or something.
Oh, cool. Excellent. Excellent.
For
So
Everyday Spice.
So, folks, if you want to send me hot sauces, I do have an Amazon wish list, and I think the wish list is posted on the YouTube channel, as a matter of fact. So, my wife is in the other room. I'm gonna whisper because she doesn't want any more hot sauces coming to this house. But ignore her. If you want to send me stuff, you go right ahead. She says she hears me.
Ah, she heard you. You are busted. You are busted. She knows. She knows now. She's
But
gonna come in here and tell you to get off. No
I
telling
know,
you
right?
how
But thank you for joining me again, Brenda. It's been a fun
Thank
time,
you
just
for
like it
having
was last time.
me, as
And
always.
good luck with your new book.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. I'll see you soon on another episode. Bye.